Fans are astonished, heartbroken, and unable to express their emotions after what Bill Cosby did at Malcolm Jamal Warner's burial. Nobody anticipated that Cosby would appear, much less give the homage that brought the entire audience to tears after years of scandal and silence. Even the family was stunned by what he said, though. You won't believe what transpired shortly after. Malcolm Jamal Warner's tragic and shocking death has left the globe in shock. Loved for his portrayal of Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, this man was more than simply an actor. He was a representation of black excellence. However, nobody could have foreseen the events that transpired during his private funeral, and Bill Cosby was at the heart of it all. Yes, Cosby made a rare public appearance after years of being shunned by his own scandals, and his words rocked the room to its foundation. The emotional roller coaster of Malcolm Jamal's final farewell, Bill Cosby's surprise reappearance, the tribute that nobody anticipated, and the mystery surrounding their final encounter prior to Malcolm's untimely death are all covered in detail in this video. We found authenticated video testimonies from those in the room and insider information from people close to the family. You'll hear Cosby's actual words, the cast's reactions, and the one line that brought Malcolm's mother to tears. You don't want to miss a moment of this, because the most startling portion is still to come, just when you think you've heard it all. The news that 54-year-old Malcolm Jamal Warner had been discovered unconscious following what was characterized as a terrible drowning incident rocked the entertainment industry to its foundations. Malcolm had been staying at a private waterfront home for what was supposed to be a peaceful getaway, but it ended up being his ultimate destination, according to sources close to the investigation. He reportedly swam alone in the early morning, which was something he frequently did to decompress and maintain his composure. However, a close buddy became worried when he failed to return after hours. Rescue divers quickly found the sobering finding after authorities were notified. It had taken several hours for Malcolm's body to be rescued from the water. What really disturbs everyone who loved him, though, is this. Malcolm is said to have sent several close pals ominous texts just days before he passed away. One of the texts said, "If I leave here tomorrow, just know I tried my best to heal." Was this a gesture of grieving, a farewell, or just a misinterpreted moment of introspection? The same question is being asked by both family members and fans. Insiders add to the mystery by claiming that Malcolm had been dealing with a burdensome legal situation recently. This matter may have been related to royalties, private family conflicts, or something darker that no one anticipated. Although there were initially no reports of drugs or alcohol at the site, toxicology results are still pending, which increases the amount of agony and speculation. In addition to destroying the black entertainment industry, his abrupt departure has left his co-stars, friends, and most importantly his devoted fans who grew up watching him on film, with a huge hole in their hearts. Even if everyone else was quietly grieving, what transpired at his funeral elevated the situation to a completely new level. The funeral for Malcolm Jamal Warner was intended to be a private, intimate farewell, attended by close friends, family, and co-stars who had supported him during his decades of success, heartbreak, and personal victory. Retained in the service, which took place in a serene chapel tucked away in the Hollywood Hills, was meticulously organized. Just love and remembering, without any media or chaos. Attendees' silent sobs filled the chapel, which was softly lighted by white candles. As gospel hymns reverberated across the stained glass church, Malcolm's mother sat in the front row, holding her chest tightly. Although no cameras were permitted, the altar was adorned with pictures of Malcolm from his early years to his time as Theo Huxtable. The space had the atmosphere of a hallowed vault of shared suffering. However, when a controversial person came in through the back doors, everything changed. Now frail and under the influence of AIDS, Bill Cosby entered the room to the astonished stillness. Like a wildfire, whispers spread. While some mourners turned away, others gasped. However, when he walked to the coffin, Cosby, who had previously portrayed Malcolm's TV father on The Cosby Show, became noticeably distressed. He had not been seen in such a public, emotionally vulnerable position for years. Witnesses reported that Cosby knelt next to the coffin and sobbed uncontrollably. He said something in a whisper that no one could hear, perhaps a confession, an apology, or a private farewell. He put a folded note in Malcolm's hands a few seconds later. The contents of that note are unknown, although according to some sources it contained statements like "I failed you, and you were the only one who truly understood me." According to reports, Cosby's visit made Malcolm's ex-girlfriends, former co-stars, and even some distant cousins uncomfortable. According to reports, some wanted him taken out. According to one insider, "This isn't about him. This is about Malcolm. He had no right." However, security permitted Cosby to remain in order to honor Malcolm's memory and prevent the funeral from becoming a media circus. Emotional tension was created by his presence. However, it brought to mind the complex and profound relationship Malcolm shared with Cosby, a relationship that was never fully healed, particularly following Cosby's demise. And there was a haunting hush in the chapel as Cosby left in tears. It seemed as though something incomplete had just happened, a message from beyond the grave, a spiritual experience, or perhaps just an untimely reckoning. However, the mysteries continued after the service was over, because everyone was rendered stunned by what Phylicia Rashad later disclosed. Many people thought the most startling aspect of the narrative was over after the emotional burial and Bill Cosby's surprise visit. However, a few days later, the renowned Phylicia Rashad, who portrayed Malcolm Jamal Warner's mother on The Cosby Show, came forward, and her revelations would rock Hollywood and beyond. Phylicia, who is always calm and majestic in all of her public appearances, made a heartbreaking appearance on a quiet podcast. She was extremely upset and unable to contain her tears, according to the host. This wasn't a polished PR moment or a prepared message. Even if that title had merely been on screen, this was a mother in mourning. She disclosed a very private last discussion she had with Malcolm a few weeks prior to his untimely passing. "One night he called me." Phylicia's voice cracked as she recorded him saying, "It was past midnight, and his voice was low, almost trembling. He stated, 'Mom, I don't feel safe. I feel like someone's watching me, and if anything happens to me, promise me you'll speak up.'" The presenter stopped. The audience was in disbelief. Was Malcolm in danger of dying? Who was observing him? Furthermore, why would he call Phylicia Rashad rather than a close friend or relative? She continued by describing his growing paranoia, using obscure language to discuss unresolved issues and realities that couldn't be kept a secret forever. "He didn't name them, but one fact chilled me." Phylicia muttered, "There's something I know that I wish I didn't," in response to his statement. "And if I ever come forward, it may shake the entire history of what we established, destroying more than just reputations." It was evident that Malcolm had been harboring a huge secret, one that was connected to both his personal life and the program that shaped a generation and its creators. Then the terrifying moment arrived. "If I'm discovered dead, don't think it was an accident," he warned me. "I'm not suicidal, I'm just sick of acting like everything is all right." The comments that were said only weeks before he drowned suddenly felt like a prophecy. Was it indeed a horrible accident that killed him, or was Malcolm aware of a threat? Something that no one wanted him to tell. A lot of fans began posting questions on the internet. Was someone pursuing him? Was he quieted down? Why didn't the police conduct a more thorough investigation? Phylicia made a heartfelt plea as she concluded the episode. "Don't let them forget him, please. Don't allow them to portray him as damaged or troubled. He was a genius. He was attempting to keep everyone safe, including those who had let him down." Phylicia Rashad's admission was more than just a heartfelt remembrance, it had the feel of a warning. Those who worked with Malcolm also couldn't remain silent for long, while the rest of the world grieved. Because two more Cosby Show cast members came forward within days of Phylicia's emotional interview, and what they revealed gave the narrative a horrifying turn. Following Phylicia Rashad's devastating admission, the floodgates opened. The fans were taken aback. The media is going crazy. What the world was hearing was unbelievable. Perhaps prior to his tragic drowning, Malcolm Jamal Warner might have called for assistance, that he might have realized his life was in jeopardy. Two more of his co-stars from The Cosby Show came forward, while many were still reeling from the shock. Furthermore, their comments simply served to darken the narrative. Tempest Bledsoe, who portrayed Malcolm's on-screen sister Vanessa Huxtable, came first. She stunned everyone by speaking up during an emotional live stream with fans, as she is often quiet and timid. She didn't mince words. "Check on your strong buddies," we constantly say. But it was Malcolm who came to see how we were doing. Her voice started to crack. He didn't want anyone to realize that he was in pain, but I think we disregarded the warning signs. Malcolm had begun to distance himself in the past few months, Tempest disclosed. He ceased taking calls. He missed several interviews and calls for reunions, and he sounded different when they did talk. He said to me, "This industry eats people alive. I don't feel like I belong anywhere anymore." However, Tempest's account of a troubling text she received from Malcolm 10 days prior to his passing was the section that shocked people the most. "Don't trust anyone right now, especially not the ones closest to me," was all he said in the text message. No background, no explanation. And when she asked him what he meant, he never answered. The issue was further complicated by the even more stunning statement made by Jeffrey Owens, who portrayed Elvin on the show. "Malcolm informed me that he discovered something that caused him to reevaluate all of our preconceived notions about the business and our program." Although he did not elaborate, he implied that Malcolm had discovered a controversy that was deeply ingrained in the Cosby Show's history. Something that might cause people to want him silenced, tarnish reputations, and ruin names. Additionally, Jeffrey offered a suggestion that made everyone shudder, much like Felicia and Tempest did. Fans started making connections after he stated, "If anything ever happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Was Malcolm looking into something? Was there any sort of cover-up? Was he in danger? His co-star's remarks were more than just heartfelt homages, they were indicators. And a peculiar thread started to show itself. Malcolm displayed some form of anxiety, paranoia, or dread, according to everyone who spoke to him in the last weeks of his life. He even thought he was being observed, according to several. Soon online sleuths, bloggers and amateur investigators began their investigations. And the internet would go crazy over what they discovered. Because there was more than terror in Malcolm's last weeks. They also contained deleted texts, private meetings, and a last-minute assignment that he never completed. The most unsettling aspect is that it's possible that someone attempted to remove everything. Something spooky emerged in the days after the untimely death of Malcolm Jamal Warner. As the public was still in shock at his unexpected drowning, there were reports that Warner had been working on a personal project that he had kept a secret from many. A few close pals discussed it in whispers. His aide casually brought it up, but nobody realized how deep it went until someone looked into his cloud drive. What did they discover? It was nearly wiped clean. Yes, exactly. Months' worth of study, audio notes, video recordings and digital files had all been erased without a trace. Lost. Even those closest to him were perplexed. Nothing was ever erased by him. He worked with scrupulous attention to detail. An old backup on a USB that Malcolm had allegedly mailed to a friend only days before his death survived, according to a former partner who told a journalist. But for everything to disappear like that, either he did it in a panic, or someone didn't want that project to see the light of day. When the files were opened, it became evident that Malcolm wasn't merely planning a comeback. He was also developing a documentary series called Behind the Laughs, What You Were Never Meant to Know, which purportedly revealed decades of covert abuse, exploitation and manipulation in Hollywood, including the Cosby Show's cherished universe. Malcolm had interviews, audio recordings, private emails and even legal documents, and sources who saw early footage said he was preparing to drop bombshells on some of the most influential people in the entertainment industry, people whose names had been on screenplays, credits and award speeches for more than 30 years. This is the part that broke fans' hearts. According to friends, Malcolm became paranoid in the weeks before his death because one of the documents he included was allegedly connected to a settlement involving a well-known Cosby Show actor. The case had been buried for decades and involved serious misconduct claims. He reportedly told a buddy that he thought he was being watched and that he was scared someone would try to stop him from speaking. He stopped working from his main studio and started carrying 2 phones with him. "If this thing drops, it'll shake the industry to its core," he told me. "I can no longer bear these secrets, even though many may despise me for speaking up." The documentary series has never been seen since Malcolm left and his files vanished. There was no official announcement, no trailer, no leaks, just that one backup USB and a few rumors from people who saw what was on it.
The most terrifying part was that the footage showed names that had never been connected to scandals before, names that still have sway today. A digital forensic team hired by Warner's family confirmed that the eraser had taken place just hours before his death, indicating one of two possible explanations for the deleted files. Some people think Malcolm's death was more than just tragic. They think it served as a warning to anyone else considering revealing the truth. One fact remained: Malcolm Jamal Warner died with the truth still hidden, but someone didn't want that truth to live on. Either that or someone accessed his system and erased the evidence, possibly after his death. Malcolm erased everything himself in a last-minute panic out of fear for his life. Regardless of how people feel about Cosby today, there is no denying the strong paternal bond the two had over the years. From the early days of The Cosby Show, when Malcolm played Theo Huxtable, the endearing son of Cosby's iconic Cliff Huxtable, to the very end. It is a story full of heartbreak, legacy, and the kind of tribute that only a man like Bill Cosby could give to someone as dear as Malcolm Jamal Warner. It was love. It was mentorship. Bill Cosby's heartfelt remarks at the funeral weren't just a farewell, they served as a reminder of how short life is and how powerful the relationships we can create are. He didn't merely lament Malcolm, he also celebrated the happiness, development, and genius that characterized him. Fans all around the world were moved to tears by the unexpected loss as well as the unadulterated, genuine love that was shown during that service. It's your turn now. What do you think of Bill Cosby's tribute? Did you feel conflicted or moved by the love he conveyed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ultimately, this tribute wasn't just about bidding farewell to Malcolm Jamal Warner. It was about celebrating a generation of black excellence on television, a legacy that forever changed the cultural narrative and the heart of a man who played it with soul and sincerity. Remember that legacies endure through the stories we tell, so if this video touched you, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who grew up watching The Cosby Show.